All right. Welcome to the Real Estate Lunchbox. I'm your host, Leon Duncan. Yeah, I just jumped on today. Well, didn't just randomly jump on. I got something planned. We're just going to talk briefly about what's going on in New York concerning this second home tax. Because I truly believe once this is done in New York, if it works well, we'll end up seeing this pop up in a lot of other cities. And some of the municipalities believe that this is going to be the answer to, I guess, their deficit issues when it comes to their finances. Now, before we even get into this, you don't know who I am. You're just scrolling through the screen. You're like, what the heck? Who the heck is this dude? He just get on here and start talking. My name's Leon Duncan. I am a real estate broker, a real estate agent. I'm a real estate investor. I've been investing probably for the last 10, since 11 years, since 2025. I'm 2015, excuse me, 2025, 2015 in the real estate space in Atlanta. Um, Airbnb, wholesaling. I've done a lot of these deals, man. And so the reason we have Real Estate Lunchbox is we wanted to create a platform just to hang out on lunch, your lunch break, and get some updates on what's going on in the real estate news space, give you some information to help you if you're trying to get into that space, make that transition. If you already exist in a real estate space, good for you. Maybe you need some encouragement and somebody pointing you to the next real estate deal and where it's going to happen. But as for me, we put this platform together also because we want a place where real estate meets culture. And why is that important? Because culture determines if you're able to make money doing real estate. Because we have so many changes that take place. And in this example, I'll use this as an example, who we put into office is going to determine not just how much money we make, but if we make any money, period. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people are jumping on this and you're listening to this and you're trying to figure out, man, Lee, hold on, let me check before I even get into this, man. Before we even get into this, let me make sure we're streaming live. Yeah, we're good streaming on Facebook and we're good streaming on Google. And that's important because sometimes Facebook hates me and I love YouTube, but, you know, sometimes it hates all of us. They don't know what they're doing, so I'm just here to help them out.
Oh no!
That's your boy. Cool. So we got thumbs up for the actual audio. So I'm going to throw this in here. Please like, subscribe, and follow. If you got a comment to make, feel free to make the comment. This show is coming in a little bit late. I had to go look at some real estate deals. We're working on a new segment where we're going to bring you some ground floor, out in the field, off the desk commentary on some of these deals that are out here because I'm a believer that the market right now looks horrible for some people and looks great for some others. And I want you to be the person which sees the benefit in the market and actually reaps the benefit from the market. Because a lot of people are going to tell you, hey, do this, do that. No, I'm just going to, through this platform, tell you everything that's going on in real estate. And I'm going to encourage you to do certain things, but it's going to ultimately be left up to you because I don't believe we're in a doom and gloom season. I believe we're in a season where we're going to see a massive amount of entrepreneurship growth. It's just a matter of where you're going to be growing in. I got friends that are in the beauty industry, that are in the tax industry, financial services. Tax would actually fit in the same thing. Yeah, of course. The real estate industry, of course, because I'm in the real estate industry myself. How can they benefit from the shift in AI, benefit from the down market right now, which is perceived, and I say perceived because quote unquote is a down market, just depending on where you live at, depending on the knowledge that you know. The knowledge base, knowing what's going on, your knowledge base is going to determine how far you go right now in the real estate space, how far you go right now in entrepreneurship, how far you go in whatever you're doing, because AI is affecting everybody's economy. And my job, which I've already started working on putting this together. So if you like, subscribe, follow, you'll be the first one to actually plug into this, is the school community, which is going to teach you how to wholesale. That's the very first product that we have out there for you to subscribe to. And I call it a product because it solves the problem you are going to have of how do I make some extra money in 2026 when everything is upside down. I want you to be knowledgeable and take advantage of the real estate market, because I don't want you to think that Grant Cardone and some of these guys are out here doing real estate in a down market. And everybody's screaming, stay out of real estate. It's bad, blah, blah, blah. No, there are places you need to be, and opposed to other places where you can just say, real estate is always good. It's just like trading stock. You just got to know how to get in there and where to get in. That's the best way to put it. And in Real Estate Lunchbox, in our school community, we go over wholesaling, and that course will be dropping. So join the school community, become a part of that, because, man, I've been doing this probably for the last, real estate as a whole, for the last 20 years, right? And wholesaling real estate since 2015, 2014. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Multiple wholesale deals a month. And when I started scaling back on wholesaling, I started doing it largely because I wanted to put this content out, and I wanted people to actually get the benefits of it. There's a bunch of gurus out here that's doing it. All power to them. I think what separates me the most is I've Airbnb'd, subject to, seller finance deals, my own deals, okay? And wholesale deals like a madman, and then helped buyers and sellers and other investors. So I think I have a good resume when it comes to not just educating you, but also sharing with you what's going on, where a lot of investors will not point you or show you to, or even have any conversation with. I love to have those conversational pieces, and I want people to win during this industry time. And when you join, you'll also get some information on how to now start leveraging AI into the wholesale business. Yeah, that's what we're doing, because we're using AI to find the deals, bring the deals in, and we're using AI to turn around and to find the right buyers for the deals at the same time. So like, subscribe, follow for more content. When that community goes live, I am going to put it out there. The post will go out. You just need to put that little bell symbol on that says, I want to hear the first thing that comes out of Leon's mouth. Like my wife, she likes to hear the first thing that comes out of my mouth in the morning. Hey, baby, I love you. You know, I won't be telling you I love you. I'm just going to be telling you this is where you need to be at to make some bread, because there's a lot of problems that are going right now. And I can sit back and talk to you about, hey, a lot of the things happening on the real estate space. I can talk to you some things happening politically. I can talk to you about this, that, and the other. I want to talk to you about how to solve your issues and your problem, okay? And a lot of people are having issues when it comes to finances and just navigating this financial storm, which I think is the best thing that will happen to us right now, because chaos is only made, money's only made when chaos is out there, not when it's nice and fluffy and plush, and you're feeling really good about yourself, and you're smelling yourself, and everything's great, and I made some money here, I made some money there. We're in a real different season, and I love this season, because I came into real estate in 2006 during a season very similar to this, but we were dealing with, of course, the banks. In this situation, we're dealing with the stock market, okay? We're dealing with a war. We're dealing with a government. We're dealing with all those different things. So like, subscribe, follow for more content. Keep yourself plugged in, because plugged in is how it works. And I'm going to take a second and give a shout out to my newest subscribers, guys. We just hit 2,100 subscribers on Google. On YouTube. I've only been doing this since November on this channel consistently, and got monetized the first 60 days. And if you want to build your real estate business, or if you want to just build any business and you want to monetize what you're doing, and you want to be in YouTube and you love reactionary content, link is in the description. Go ahead and check out my 60 days to monetize program, which I show you how to monetize your channel in 60 days. And what's crazy, I made money. Like right after it went monetized, I literally have been making money every single month through my YouTube content. And I'm not talking about small cash. Guys, it's all about small, a couple $100. I mean, I think that's cool, right? It'll pay your car note, pay your utilities, right? But it can grow to be so much more. And in the community, I talk more about that, because I believe that anything I can give you to win during this time will help me win. You hear me? Anything I can give you to win during this time will help me win. And I love winning. So I win by helping you win. So I'm not going to be long on this today. We probably won't even do an hour. But we are going to talk about this second home tax that took place, that they're looking on landing in New York. Now, you got to realize this second home tax is important because what works in New York, which is the busiest and biggest capitalist city in the country, I would say in the world, if it works, it's going to be picked up in LA. You know, LA is going to pick it up. Cali, y'all going to pick it up. Of course, the socialist I'm sorry, the Republic of California. I was about to say the Socialist Republic of California, but let's just say the Republic of California. I got some good people out there, man. Shout out to you guys in Cali. But in addition to that, it'll go into Atlanta. It'll go into Miami. It'll go into any city that is a blue-driven city because they found that these guys can actually make money doing what they did, which is raising the taxes on the wealthy. They will definitely go do the same thing too. But there are pros and cons to this, and I don't think we kind of look at it with the right lens. Now, to bring some of y'all up to speed, because some people are like, what the hell are you talking about, Leon? What do you mean? So Zohran Mamdani, he's been on the news, met with President Trump, recently just put together a proposal working in connection with the governor of New York, how to actually raise taxes or to bring in to meet the deficit that the city's having, New York City's having, when it comes to their budget. We'll talk more about the deficit, but let's first take a look at how he went about introducing this to the masses in New York.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate, but who don't actually live here. But even so, they're able to reap the huge financial rewards of owning property in, dare I say, the greatest city in the world. And most of the time, these units are sitting empty, since again, they don't actually live here. This is a fundamentally unfair system that hurts working New Yorkers. Now, it's coming to an end. This tax will raise at least $500 million directly for the city. It'll help fund things like free childcare, cleaner streets, and safer neighborhoods. As mayor, I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others. Happy Tax Day, New York.
All right. So Zohran has been speaking over and over again about raising the taxes on the rich, on the wealthy. There's stories about the wealthiest of the wealthy in New York, shifting and moving to Florida. And there's also been an upset in the Atlanta or the Georgia market with them shifting to Georgia also. Not leaving completely New York, but leaving a second home in New York and moving to some of these sunnier, more relaxed, tax benefit states. Who wouldn't? See, real estate, when we keep looking at real estate, and I would say the idea, the concept that's been sold to people in real estate has been like, man, you get in real estate, you're going to make money, you're going to be wealthy, you can be rich. The wealthiest people own real estate. That's true. But I've released this in multiple videos, and I'm going to continue to say it. You can still be wealthy without owning real estate and come in on a back end and purchase real estate. Once you've created a system, if you're an entrepreneur, to actually build wealth, and then you're funneling your money into the real estate. So how does this look like in New York? These second homes that Zohran is going to be taxing are some of the second homes for the most wealthiest people in New York. Now, I am not a hater of people who are wealthy. Matter of fact, I truly believe the way you become wealthy, studying some of these people and what they do, that's one way. Well, that's a part of it. That's not the overall thing. Sometimes you need to actually change your thinking, your mind of who you are, and that this is something that you should be doing or have a part in, building wealth for your family. A lot of people believe that, but that's a different conversation. When the rubber hits the road, they always make these decisions that don't line up with what they believe. And we could talk about that down the line, but in this case, we're going to look at how how people are how they're reacting, you know. But let's jump into this real quick. I'm gonna show you some of the things that the media is talking about with Zoran and doing this. Now, hate to say it, Zoran's not getting the best news coverage when it comes to this. But I'm of the belief I'm gonna give him a chance, and I think you should too. I think we all should give him a chance because we're not gonna see what happens in New York overnight. It's gonna literally take 3, 4, 5 years to actually see if this plan makes sense to anybody. If it makes sense, can it be duplicated? Did it solve issues or create more issues? Now, before we even get into this real deep, let me stop this real quick. New York has a deficit right now, which a lot of the major metropolitans don't have. Nowhere close to where New York's deficit. New York right now has a deficit that exceeds roughly about $3.5 billion. 3.5. That's a lot of money. That's a whole lot of money and I'll give you some perspective. Atlanta doesn't have nowhere near that deficit. Atlanta 2026, our whole budget for the city of Atlanta is $3 billion total, with about 975, in the general fund, 975 million in the general fund. But there's only like a 14% increase from the previous year when we talk about Atlanta's budget, and Atlanta is nowhere near that level of deficit when it comes to their budget. I mean, they're short probably about 35 million. Y'all look at that and said, okay, that's a bunch. But you can do some basic cutting of some programs or slight increases in, hey, you go to get your firearms license, we're going to charge you a couple dollars more. And in some other areas you can plug in just to inch that money up. And Atlanta's prepared to do it. I say Andre Dickens, I like him. I like what he's been doing. The city looks clean. There's a little class to it at the same time. It was the same thing with Kasim Reed, class. We're not going to talk about Lance Bottoms. We're not going to do that. But Chicago is experiencing a deficit, but not even close, which I've covered before, that New York is experiencing. Charlotte, I know some of y'all love Charlotte. So just to give you a clear view, Charlotte has a budget of about $3.56 billion. And their deficit right now, their general fund sits at roughly about $943 million. And their balance, they're not increasing property tax. Neither is Miami with a $3.6 billion budget. And they're sitting on right now, I think, roughly $1.2 billion in their coffers, expecting the rest to come in. And their balance also in their budget. No need to increase property tax. Atlanta, like I said, they're about 20. I said 35. They're roughly about 20 million in deficit on their budget. About 20 million. Chicago, 1.5 billion. He's dealing with whatever he has to deal with up there, but he kind of sits in that same place New York is sitting in. A little bit. Not as bad as New York, but in that same place. And man, shout out to LA. LA, their budget's 13.9. They don't have I think they're in a deficit of about 1 billion, but they've already did adjustments so that they come in lined up. Why does New York feel second homes need to be taxed for millionaires, for billionaires, for the 1%, for the 1% of the 1%? I'm not defending the 1% of the 1% and saying, hey, we should get there and defend them. I'm defending the business and the dollars that the 1% of the 1% bring to our local cities, that some of us, we have friends, we have family, we even ourselves have probably worked for some of the companies, whether it's airlines at the airport, whether, I'm talking not airlines at the airport. Yeah, airlines at the airport. Yeah, some United. Some of these airlines are owned by people who are billionaires. Whether you're working at McDonald's, billionaires. Whether you work, it doesn't matter. The money play is there, and they're using whatever product or service, whatever value they bring to the market to create jobs. Yes, unless you plan on being an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. Your family's ran by these guys being able to create jobs. We see a shortage of jobs right now taking place on the tech side. Tech sides, these These tech companies owned by billionaires. These billionaires are cutting costs and they're cutting the ability to use manual labor and people. They're turning towards AI. So why do we now make it harder for them to do their job? Why? Only reason we make it harder for them to do their job is because we've been sold this narrative that, I don't say sold a narrative, that we need to tax them in order to keep the systems and things like that running. As a real estate investor, you need to know this, because what happens to them will affect how many people you put into your rental, whether it's a brownstone in New York, in Harlem, or if they even tax your rental and give you that tax. Because there's a bunch of brownstones in New York that would actually fit into this tax bracket. Let's go.
Promises like free buses, driving off into the sunset. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is leaning into his next obsession, class warfare. Here's Mamdani's sinister warning to richer Americans.
Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre tax, the first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million.
What you saw there was the mayor of New York City standing outside an American citizen's apartment building and publicly shaming him for owning an apartment he pays a lot of taxes on. We've seen this kind of public naming and shaming time and time again in Russia, in Cuba, in China. In reality, these tried and failed tactics will only further erode the Big Apple's tax base by driving away even more job creators and businesses, leaving Mamdani no choice but to go after the middle class and then working class residents he claims to fight for.
Now, in the past, I used to look at this as being a fear tactic. We're going to look at a couple different news broadcasts concerning this, because I thought this is just being put out as a fear tactic in order to make the middle class, or the people that are poor, or the lower class, whatever you want to put it, concerned about the rich getting richer and what could potentially happen to them. And those are all good points, not bad points at all. But I think it's kind of skewed. It doesn't fit the full vision of what's actually taking place.
Let's bring in New York City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino and New York Apartment Association CEO Kenny Burgos. Great to see you both. So, Vicky, watching him, first of all, tapping on the camera, I saw Senator Moody say that's the last thing you see before you move from New York to Florida. But we've seen this kind of class warfare throughout history, whether it was Lenin, Che Guevara, the Castro regime. It never ends well, not for the rich, but for everybody.
This here video is absolutely evil, if you ask me. When you're going to take somebody and shame them in public in front of their home, look, the tax base here is leaving. The wealthy are leaving. They are keeping their homes here, their second homes here. They're moving their multi-billion-dollar businesses outside of New York City. The only way they could make any money now to try to fulfill this maniac's $127 billion budget that he put in place for the city council to fill that bucket is to go after the rich. These businesses have left, and now the only thing left to tax is their wealthy apartments, which, by the way, New York being somewhat liberal, on a normal stance, you would say, well, you know what? They'll eat it a little bit if the city was run properly. If they had to pay an extra 3%, 5%, most of them wouldn't care. But when they see
I'm going to stop it right there because I've got a bunch of other videos for us to take a look at. That's not the only one. So what she's basically saying right there is they don't even want to give him a shot at doing this. And I'm not a defender or a lover of Mamdani. I'm not. But I am, you got to realize this is a social experiment is a political social experiment. It's going to affect us in the real estate space regardless of whatever we think. Because like I said earlier, what actually socially survives in New York and is big in that metropolitan will eventually spread to other cities and so forth. The negative portion to this is, in my opinion, the specific targeting of people that have $3 to $5 million. I think he's going to be at $5 million. Properties that are valued at $5 million or above. I kind of feel like when you start putting this stuff into place, you now open the door where people who have properties that are 4 million, 3 million, and they're looking to sell those properties, the people who would normally buy something that's 5 will actually shift over and buy something a little bit less to avoid that. And we're talking about a $40,000. I think it comes out to like 40,000. Someone was saying, but 40,000 when you sell 40,000. They haven't even decided or determined if it's going to be yearly, if it's going to be one time. They're saying actually yearly. That's some of the reports I've seen is yearly. I don't think that's a good look. I just don't think it's a great positioning because all these other metropolitans like Atlanta, Houston, Charlotte, LA, they went into the budget and they slashed and they cut. They knew already that we could raise taxes on people during times where a lot of people are struggling to pay their mortgages or their rents or their utilities, common food, putting that on the table. They don't need to be hit by a person who can pay it. Say, listen, we're going to pull out and we're going to leave. That's less jobs that's going to be available in the area. A lot of these guys don't think it through. To us, like people like you and me, we're not billionaires. We're sitting down here and we're talking and having this discussion. There's going to be opportunity, especially if you're a real estate agent, especially if you can find deals that are out here in the market, especially if you know people that are looking and working for some of these people with high net worth that want to move into the city, or they want to buy, or they want to shift their money from New York to Atlanta to Miami. I keep telling people, the people like us that are boots on the ground, we're going to make the money off of that because assets are going to be sold and they're going to need somebody to sell them or somebody to buy them. Yeah. So this is the reason why we need to look at this, because it's going to be a roll up. So what do I mean by a roll up? I give you an example. When I work my legs, I see it in my upper body. And I learned that from a guy who actually is like, he's an intense, very, very intense fitness guy. And he was showing me, he said, man, if you work your legs, your upper body will actually get it because your legs are the strongest part, the largest muscle in your body. Same thing with this. When they do this, it rolls up to us. Like, we're going to feel it. People say, hey, we're not up there. We're downstream of them. Well, in this case, it will roll to us, whether it's upstream or downstream. Okay. And it will create opportunity for us in multiple markets.
Governor Kathy Hochul shifted positions today, throwing her support behind a new proposal to tax the ultra wealthy.
This would target people who own multiple homes in the state and who leave those high-end properties empty most of the time. It's called a pied-à-terre tax. News 4's Andrew Siff explains.
Chopper 4 up above a penthouse apartment that sold a few years back for more than $200 million. The owner, according to elected officials, is hardly ever here.
They're part of our skyline, but those people are not part of our city.
So today, Governor Kathy Hochul proposed a new way to get money from homeowners who don't live here.
I am proposing a common sense surcharge on high-value second homes in New York City.
She called it a surcharge, but Mayor Mamdani called it a tax.
This is a tax on properties worth more than $5 million that are owned by people who do not reside in New York City.
Both leaders supporting the new pied-à-terre tax. That's the French term for foot on the ground that typically means a place you own but don't live, impacting 13,000 homes in New York City valued at $5 million and above, apartments that are not owner-occupied.
So I keep hearing it. Why is this important to me, Leon? Why should I even care about this? Once you put taxes or surcharges like this in place, this is the reason why we have a national income tax, where we pay the feds every once a year. We file our income tax. There was a point in time in our United States history where income tax wasn't anything that we was concerned with. It wasn't until we fought a war, World War I, and we had to figure out how we're going to pay for this. I mean, we gotta mobilize an army. We got an army already, but we got to pay for this. That's when we had this introduction of federal taxes. When taxes go into place, they typically do one or two things. They stand still and stay right there, or they move and they spread to other areas based on the needs of the metropolitan. So what do I mean by that? It's a $5 million. It is focused on homes that are 5 million. But what says it stays at 5 million? What says it doesn't inch down to 3 million when we see these 13,000 homes that are out there valued at 5 million and above? What about when they say, hey, we're not getting enough from that 5 million and above. We need to take it down to 3. Well, then we need to take it down to 1. Then we need to, you know what? We should say anything right now that's 500,000 and above. We need to have it like that. You think I'm crazy, but Washington State just did something very similar, and they left the loophole open where they can take it from being a wealth tax against people that make $1 million plus, and they typically just give them a deduction. That means it's for everybody, but you're under $1 million, so you can get that deduction. Eventually, that's going to drop to $750. Eventually, it's going to drop to $500. Eventually, it's going to keep going lower and lower until they feel it meets the need at that time. And God forbid, if we ever get into a depression, it may just freaking go down to the regular average mom and pop. And that's when it gets bad. There's a couple different rules that are floating around here right now that they're trying to put into place that is going to mean money for us if we know how to work these rules and we know how to fit in there. But it also can mean potentially down the line issues for real estate investors, wholesalers, flippers, people who just want to buy a couple properties just to park money. And that's really what it is. These are just properties that money's parked in, okay? And I keep saying it, this is an example. This is just the beginning of what could potentially happen in other metropolitans when they deem that the need to make up the shortfall in the deficit is taken care of. Now, I heard people argue and say, I've heard people say, hey, it's because we've got the political office right now of the president held by Donald Trump doing all these different things. And that may be true. But Trump is not going to be in office forever. Trump is going to leave in 2 years. These laws that's being put in place, there's no time frame on them. It's meant to affect you, the people that are there, for as long as they deem possible.
But Hochul's Republican opponent in this year's governor's race said the new tax will backfire.
They're going to take their money someplace else. And that means some carpenter's not going to get a job. Some plumber's not going to get a job. The restaurants in the neighborhood are going to lose business.
Hochul says the extra revenue is needed to help the city close a $5 billion budget gap. And some New Yorkers seem to embrace the idea of out-of-town owners paying more.
I think they should pay taxes to the city of New York. They are using our services, police department, fire, and walking on our sidewalks. Why shouldn't they pay?
Now, if this tax sounds familiar, it was proposed by then Governor Cuomo back in 2019, but it did not pass the state legislature. Now it's up to this year's state lawmakers to decide whether to include it in the budget. By the way, the typical surcharge for a pied-à-terre owner could be about $40,000. That's the latest reporting from Central Park South. Andrew Siff.
I say 40 stacks. That's not bad if you're a millionaire. I mean, you're paying 40 stacks, right? Not bad at all. Pay 40 stacks. The question is, are you paying 40 stacks every year? Or are you paying 40 stacks one time? That surcharge. They have yet to put a lot of this stuff into place, man. So we're going to see.
Let's start there with this tax on second homes. And you think about just the relationship that Kathy Hochul brings to the situation, because she had opposed a blanket tax when it comes to millionaires' income taxes. So why was the second home tax perhaps a little bit more palatable?
Right. She found a compromise with Mamdani where she would tax a sliver of New York's wealthy, but there are the wealthy that don't live here. They probably don't vote here. And so she gets around taxing a broad swath of millionaires, which is what Mamdani wanted to do, but she still gets to say, I'm taxing the rich. And, these are not, most of the voters, they don't live here. It doesn't have the same impact.
What does it mean, though, when it comes to the impact potentially on the luxury market? Because, you think about a lot of those second homes, they're being used as pied-à-terres, for example.
Right. And that's where she's focused on, is the pied-à-terres.
Pied-à-terre. You got to love real estate with all these fancy French words. Pied-à-terre.
She
deed in lieu.
says this won't have much of an impact, but the real estate market, and agents think otherwise. They say that the luxury market really depends on these pied-à-terre transactions. And for example,
okay, I'm gonna stop her real quick. She's as an agent, as a broker, as someone that has dealt with out-of-country buyers, on the investing side and then also on the retail side. She's right. New York has an issue, which Atlanta is very similar to this. They've got out-of-state, out-of-the-country buyers who have been purchasing condos and townhomes in some of these most prestigious places. I'm talking about people from the UK, from China, from Asia, from Russia, parking money in U.S. condos, in the condo market, in the townhome market, taking full advantage of the appreciation. Full advantage. In many cases, this is not even money that's being rented out. I give you an example. I rented, when I moved to Atlanta, back to Atlanta from the beach. We asked why we moved from Atlanta back from the beach back here, but we moved. The opportunity, the offer was good. The house we rented, the people who owned it lived in France. Yeah, they had probably about 50 houses in Atlanta rented out to people. So you have these companies that are out of the country setting up property management companies, and they're buying these properties. Sometimes they're keeping them vacant. Sometimes they're renting them. In this situation with New York, they get a ton of money from out of seas buyers, people over the water, buying these luxury homes. And in some cases, well, in many cases, we're talking about probably 40 to about 50% of transactions in particular zip codes or areas are people that don't live not just in the city, in the state, but out of the country. So it can, when you start doing that, slow down purchases. And this is a trickle-down effect. I tell people, we should be concerned with what happens in a billionaire class. I have no desire to be in a billionaire class. I mean, shoot, technically, yeah. But in the millionaire class, some of us actually are knocking on that door. But in the billionaire class, why do we keep an eye on that? We keep an eye on it simply because they have made the jobs, and those jobs are funding the people to live in areas that we probably own real estate in, that they're paying us rents to live there. And that's a big thing. That's very important. That trickle-down money affects us indirectly. So when we get down and we complain and we say, hey, we can't find a good renter for this, or we can't find good rentals to actually buy, a lot of it happens because if people are not incentivized to move because there's no jobs, we're not going to have the capability of renting some of our places out to these individuals, which means less money for us. And for you, if you're looking at trying to find deals for people, hey, go to our Georgia off-market property deal list and you'll be able to see some of the deals we have in Georgia. If you're focused on that and finding those deals, you will find less and less deals, because just like the baby boomers aren't selling to the millennials and Zs right now, well, not the millennials, but mostly the Zs, they're holding on to their low interest, highly appreciated homes. So it slows and clogs down the market. We don't want to slow and clog down a market, which is already happening right now in the spring market.
Corcoran has one team where 40% of their real estate sales for luxury items are for pied-à-terres. There's a concern that, for example, the $5 million cutoff, because you only get taxed if your pied-à-terre costs $5 million or more, will cause people to start buying homes in lower tier markets, like $3 million, and that will flood the rest of the real estate market where homes, as we know, are, there's not a lot of homes.
Right, yeah.
Well, let's even go worse than that. What about when people who park money in a $200 million place says, no, screw that. I could spend $100 million and buy up all of these houses. They don't put it in one deal. Now they literally turn it into a business and they buy up all of these houses. 100,000 over here. You in New York, you might do a 500,000 over here. You might do a 250. These are homes that we should own because they're assets that the mom and pop, people like me and you, have used for generations, for years to build wealth up until probably recently, the last 5 to 10 years, where we saw these corporate people jumping in. The reason why we have these corporate people jumping in is because they're not going to buy these houses or these condos to park their money in. They would rather put it into a hedge fund and let that hedge fund go out there, like in Atlanta, and purchase about 33% of the sitting inventory, which makes it extremely difficult right now for people to find properties to rent because they're either extremely high, or difficult for people to find properties to buy because they're non-existent. This is how it affects us. I'm going to slow down and tell you this. This is how it affects us. This is why the news covers it to a certain point, and I feel in some ways is disingenuous because they don't cover the full picture. They pit you against billionaires, and then they pit billionaires against the working class. Hey, get rid of that AI, we save money. When in essence, we all need each other. We all need each other to build wealth. We all need each other to grow. We all need each other for upward mobility. No class is more important than the other. Whether you're a billionaire, a millionaire, or whether you're a middle class, you're not. Whether you're lower class, they're no more important than you. They're not. We should always remain open to moving up in our social economic level, moving our social economic level up, to scaling it up. But I truly believe when you start to demonize these levels, when you start to overtax these levels, when you look for those things to create the narrative, because when you look for those things and create the narrative that these people are against you, we make it less. We tell the Generation Z, for example, and I heard a kid say it before, why should I get up and go to school, or why should I even go to work? There's nothing for us anyway. That's really how they feel. I've spoken to them. I've listened to so much reaction videos, so many of them texting, commentary going back and forth, comments. There's a total lack of hope. I don't believe the hope grows, or we're going to see that increase the more we target and attack the people that create the current jobs that they have right now that put money on their table, that put food on their table and money in their pocket. I've always said this, and I truly believe it. We should incentivize ambition. Capitalism does need to have boundaries placed on it. You don't want to, it's just like any freedom that's exploited now becomes a level of slavery and bondage. Yeah, it does. There's no such thing as freedom without any boundaries. Somebody still has to go out there and protect the country that you live in, that you're able to build your wealth in. Okay? But this is slowly starting to become an issue when we look at affordability on the larger scale.
An interesting sort of trickle-down situation there. Yeah. Let's talk about this moment in time, though, because this sort of tax, it's been on the table, floated in various forms for years now. So what is different about this period?
Right. Well, it comes when other states, other democratically led states like Washington and California and Massachusetts are proposing their own wealth taxes, or just taxes on assets where it makes it perhaps more likely to pass. Back in 2019, there was an attempt to do this. It failed in New York, but now you have these other states that are coming on board. There's more of a push to tax the wealthy. So I think, and Kathy Hochul, she's the main obstacle here. She doesn't want to pass it. She doesn't, and she's already decided she's going to.
Yeah, she's already done it. So the governor, I think it kind of makes the governor happy, while it also makes Mandani look like he has a win. But like I said at the beginning of this, New York is an experiment right now. Whatever New York becomes is going to affect a lot of us in these smaller metropolitans. So we have to keep a good eye on what actually works in that market, and the desire of the politicians we put in place to implement it in other markets for them to actually see success. For them, success is more money coming from us, the people who actually get out here and work every day, earn an income, pay, and then take that money and use it to take care of the communities which they believe needs to be funded. And that's a different conversation altogether. I'm not an advocate of people taking and using my money to fuel their programs when their programs have shown so little success when it comes to actually changing and breaking the poverty line, giving people money, giving people opportunity, creating those opportunities and sound infrastructure for us to actually build wealth. I'm going to end this by saying this. Okay, there's two parts to this thing. And this is a very important piece. You got to look at this. Okay. Chicago is in a big, big issue. They got a big, big issue. Prior to New York's deficit, Chicago was running a big deficit. Okay. And they don't have a way to fix it. And the way they're fixing their deficit is raising property taxes on people like you and me, whether we have a rental property, whether it's the home we live in, which now makes us, if we have rental property, have to tax people who want to rent these properties, tax them through the rent, raising the rent and making it harder for them to actually sustain and take care of their family. I think we need to roll this back some and stop attacking the people like you and me who try to get property and put those things out there for people to actually rent. We need to stop attacking the people who make the jobs, and we need to for us to actually go to. And we need to kind of look at what's being spent and how it's being spent, because we definitely know without a shadow of a doubt that money's not being spent the way that it's supposed to be. And now I know you didn't jump on this to listen to this. You probably jumped and you said, "Oh, this is cool. So let's listen to it real quick." But I want you to realize we're all in this country together. What happens to them is going to affect us. What happens to us is going to affect them. They just don't get it. When I say them, meaning the billionaire class, the high, ultra high income earning class. There's no escaping it. And this is what makes our democracy in our country very different from a Russia or China or South Korea, all these places where some of these socialist programs have been tried. They failed there. And the crazy part is, I believe and I see that they're going to fail worse here, simply because we're more of a cohesive country that depends on the other class regardless. Somebody's got to buy your goods. Somebody's got to watch your Netflix. That movie you put out. Somebody's got to do that. Likewise, somebody's got to go to your factory and work. Even with automation and robotic work, it's still not going to meet the needs. We still need electricians to do the data centers. We still need plumbers to do the data centers and to build this future AI inventory. It's going to affect everybody. It's going to. And I'm at that 50th minute, almost 10 minutes before the hour in this program, hits. But I'm only going to do one topic. After this, hey, I appreciate you jumping on and listening to me even do this rant. I'm going to re-put this out there, but I want us to be conscious on how we vote going into this midterm. That's the reason why I'm starting to do more of this. so that we can put people in place. This is not an I'm not advocating for Republican. I'm not advocating for Democrat. I'm advocating, almost similar to what Killer Mike said, for people that will actually do what they say they're going to do. I'm advocating for people that will actually have a plan and not just collect your vote, whether they're Republican or Democrat. Because I know every state is different, and there's some great Democrats out there trying to do great things, whether you like their party or you don't like their party. It doesn't matter. Like I said, Andre Dickens in Atlanta, yeah, Atlanta could have had a horrible mayor, but we got a pretty good mayor. They got it. Well, I say we, got a house down there. So it's still me. Still got a place down there. Good. And we need to look at that and continue to put people in place that will look at the broader issue and not just be on a paper chase or a money grab. And their money grab will affect us 5-6 years down the line. See, the difference between people who have money and people who don't, they're long-term thinkers. The people who don't have money and don't have resources or don't have assets are typically short-term thinkers. They're typically concerned with what happens today, how today affects my dollar, and that is just the way that some of us was raised in a hood in different places we grew up in that wasn't wealthy America, or call it new money. You can, however you want to call it. And that new money could just be you getting your 4-year degree and coming into a 6-figure salary. It doesn't matter. But the way that a lot of people were raised, not all, but I would say a good 40, 50, some people may say 70, 80, Leon, I'm being generous, to have that short-term thinking. This real estate is a long-term game. That's why I say wholesaling real estate can make you good money and great money. It's a short-term play, but if you put things in place, you can have long-term benefits from it and then end up taking you down the line from just flipping contracts to flipping houses, which I've done before, to getting Airbnbs, which I've done before, to getting subject to properties or seller finance properties, which I've done before, and building wealth. That's the play. That's the play, because you understand the flow of money and you understand what real estate deals actually look like. So don't let these guys fool you. This is an important issue, regardless, and you're not going to see enough people talking about it because we're not going to see the effects of this law until we're 4 to 5 years down the line. And in 4 years, and I don't believe Mondani's going to get kicked out. I believe he's probably going to get voted back in. He's young. Think about it. He's very, I can't say attractive. He's young. I can't say attractive. He's young. He has a great smile. He has a great demeanor. He's always smiling. He plays the social political game very strategically, and I've got to give him applause.
Congratulations. Well done.
I've got to. I can't hate on him like a lot of the Republicans or the other establishment members would want to do, because I feel like his game when it comes to the political office on point. It's just a matter of, now that they've put you in, will you follow through on what you said you will do? Will we actually see a change in the lifestyle for people that are considered, average working day Americans? It's important because whether you're living in Charlotte, which is a blue state, a blue city, whether you're living in Chicago, which is a blue city, it doesn't matter where you're living at. What works in New York, the capital of capitalism for the United States, and I would dare to say for the world, can eventually be duplicated in your local municipality. And that's why it's important. All right. Hey, like, subscribe, follow for more content. I tried to keep this down to a good hour. I only had one thing to actually talk about. There's a lot of other things, but like I said, I just ran back in right now for looking at a couple of properties that were out there in the field, and I only had one day to take a look at it, and I had to do it today at noon. It just had to happen, just had to take place. take place. And I'm going to start showing you what I see so that you can be more educated and you can see that there is a bag in this wholesaling. There's a bag that you can actually make in real estate that you don't have to change your lifestyle, that you can just add it as a stream if you've always fascinated about it and being a part of it. And eventually, I hope for you, build wealth, generational wealth, because it starts here. Actually, I'm going to change that. It starts here because your heart has to believe, your mind has to perceive, and then you got to be able to execute. That's where generational wealth starts. It starts in the words that you see and that you embrace, not so much in the money that goes into your pocket, because you can have a bunch of money, and we see these rappers out here, they got a bunch of money, but nah, they fake. They ain't got no money. We see it already in some of the stars. Yeah, bunch of money. They make good money. But as far as in generational wealth, you tell me one star that has created generational wealth outside of Denzel Washington and his kids learning how to do what they do. Then you have one or two of them out there which their kids are in the business. Hey, like, subscribe, follow for more content. I hope this gives you some insight. Cool story. Wanted to talk about it. I'll see you guys on the next video. I will be streaming on time, 12 noon tomorrow. Like, subscribe, follow for more content, and join. You got, oh, hold on. It's not out there yet. When it comes, join the school community. I see you guys. Peace. Remember, God loves you. Forget about what these people say. They don't know you. They have no clue of what's coming down there.